I hate to break the fishing news after Chuck, but I'd like to speak about the ice hockey.
Congratulations, you're one of the 13 listeners of the Real Life Podcast.
We just traded a migraine in for like an orgasm.
Might want to mark that down.
Yep.
All of my projects are on schedule until they're not.
A member of the Nation Network of Podcasts.
About as funny as we're going to get today.
How about that? That's a new intro the boys got.
The explosion at the end is heavy duty.
Yeah.
Boom for the streets.
That's a opener for people, for the 13 people on the inside.
Yeah.
That makes us sound a lot funnier than I think we really are.
Mm-hmm. That was the highlights of our first 163 shows.
That was the best 15 seconds
Now I'm really
we had.
not wearing those headphones.
You don't want to hear
Serious
this.
FOMO over
Oh,
here.
no, it's... Yeah,
He started making a best of show for the New Year's or whatever.
And just
till we
ended
were
with
off.
an intro.
And that was the intro.
All right. Welcome into Nation Real Life, episode 156. You're hearing a lot of voices. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk. Wanye's here. Jay's here. Chalmers here. Bag Milk, Mexico bound, not on the show. But we do have Shane Fennessey, and this is exciting. We've been hyping it up on social media. He was an associate producer on the recent Connor McDavid documentary that came out. Shane, thanks for giving us some time.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for all the posts and publicity for the documentary.
Well, our Instagram account got deleted today.
For real?
For real. So if you don't want to hang out with us anymore because we don't have any reach, I get it.
So you have 0 followers?
We have 0 followers and 0 account.
We're working.
You know, let's start fresh.
We have a few websites we can use to rebuild them, but boy howdy. So if you're looking for promotion,
I will only take 50% of proceeds going forward, being the jumping off point for your new social media.
excellent.
Oh,
You have to
excellent.
start again from today. No, that's the Nation Real Life. The good one. The Oilers Nation one got deleted. John.
Yeah, the one with like
Oh.
60,000
the juggernaut.
Serious?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
we're
not-
working on getting it back. We had to send a lot
You
of
guys did this.
documentation.
This happened with Twitter.
Oh,
didn't it?
Twitter.
Got deleted. Yeah.
You know, we're just misunderstood.
Scofflaws.
No, there's a bunch of accounts got deleted. My boy Kaylor Mimamoto, one of my favorite Instagram accounts.
I almost cried.
He got deleted. He DM'd me and he was like, I'm gone. I'm like, what do you mean gone? Like, I thought he was injured in real life, poor guy. So Instagram's cracking down, but we got hit with impersonation.
Yeah, someone's following.
But what they don't realize, which the Oilers didn't realize for years, is OilersNation.com is our registered trademark.
Right.
So sorry, Instagram, give us back our account. But of course, you can't like call Zuckerberg up and get him to reinstate shit.
It's very political.
It's emailing someone's MySpace. It routes through a firewall.
Yeah, I've
And
been trying to get verified for a year now, and they keep shutting me down.
Really?
I think I need a Wikipedia page. I read that helps. So I, of course, created my own Wikipedia page.
The dream.
That got rejected.
Maybe you just
Wait
want
a
to
minute, you can't just like they screen it and approve it?
You need to have at least 3 independent, verifiable, like first or second degree sources or something like that. So your name needs to be in the news, and you need to be notable.
I know something you did to be notable.
Yeah.
That?
Your M-check. Do you want to give a blinding intro to what's happened?
Well,
The documentary?
Yeah, that's how I introed him. I said he was an associate producer on the McDavid doc.
The thing that everybody did this weekend?
Yeah, that should get everybody involved, verified by every social media thing.
First off, I was rattled. So not about the documentary at all.
No.
Very well
But
done.
my initial
Probably the same thing
experience-
everybody did.
Everybody who would have, because the Friday I wasn't unable to watch the skills competition, so I recorded the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Alas, the skills competition runs 30 minutes late. I know you get to see the first half of the documentary, and then I got to go ice fishing the next day with a bunch of people that saw the whole documentary, and I had to tell them to shut up the whole time because I had to re-record it and watch it on Sunday.
Makes for good fishing.
Well, the good news is you knew how it ended, regardless.
With him scoring a bazillion goals this year and leading the NHL in scoring, which was great. Usually knowing the ending for something ruins it, but that was just fantastic
So
work.
what we did was at our house, my wife, she watched it that night while I was out. We went in after our men's league hockey game, and they were playing it with sound in the bar where we went to. Yeah. And so because they had the skills competition on, they just left the volume on for this. And we all walk in and we're like, okay, whoa, like this is half over right now. You've got to shut it off. We all have it playing. And the waiter, to his credit, is like, yeah, I don't know why we're playing it. I'm going to go take care of this. And within 2 minutes, he has it shut off. Within 5 minutes, it's back on. So clearly people who weren't PVRing it and had only been sitting there and watching this thing was polarizing that night. And then my wife calls me and she says, I didn't get to watch the last 50 minutes. So we recorded the next day.
Yeah.
So my first thing was I'm like, do you think that counts as like 2 downloads? Like 2
views?
I mean, that's
You
how-
recorded it
that's-
twice, for
that's-
sure.
That's helping it with the numbers. They gotta imagine.
We all got to play a role.
Yeah. everybody's weekend was revolving around this thing, I think.
You'd think it'd be the one weekend you get off from like following the Oilers stuff and just enjoy the skills competition.
No, I needed it. I did need the skills competition. I needed that documentary. It quenched a thirst.
To go back to the beginning, on Monday, the trailer is released. And it was Monday, right?
Yeah.
The week before. And that comes out. Like, how did you receive it? How did you hear the news from it? What did you start feeling like? What was the windfall?
Well, I think within half a day, it was reposted on 20 different sites between NHL.com, Oilers.com. You guys posted a bunch about it. Yahoo News, like it was everywhere. So to see something that like you've had front of mind for about 4 or 5 months just blow up everywhere, it's kind of like, oh, I guess we're going now. Like, you know, it's like you walk out on stage when you're doing stand up and it's like, well, now we're in it. There's no going back now.
It's amazing, like, as a fan of documentaries, I had a buddy message me, did you see the documentary? And I'm like, now you know the life I lead 52 weeks a year, bitch. There's always a good documentary. Which one are you talking about? The Royals? No, Connor? Like, you've now... I don't know of a documentary I've ever heard of in my lifetime that more people gave a shit about. Maybe the 30 for 30 on King's Ransom?
That was a good one.
I don't even think that's on this level though, because this is just so recent, which is what I think makes it so compelling.
And it's so shocking. We didn't know the ending. We didn't know, I guess, what the what do you want to call it? Like the climax of the thing was. We didn't know what the point of it was until we saw the trailer.
Right.
We didn't know that we didn't know everything and that it was this close to being this, you know, dramatic of a life-changing injury for him.
Yeah, well, it's the behind the scenes. You know the end result. You know he came back. You know he scored that amazing goal against Vancouver, and now he's leading the league in points, and the Oilers are in second in the division going to the All-Star game. You know all those things. But how did we get to this point, right?
Yeah.
And, like, we're so spoiled with Connor in general that, like, seeing him score 100 points plus in a season doesn't really faze us. So now all of a sudden you see like what actually goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. And this was obviously an extenuating circumstance of a summer for him. That is, it just adds to the legacy and the legend.
Well, it also showed how close we were to not having it at all this season.
I don't want to think about it.
Well,
I don't want to think about it either, but
that was the only thing that was getting me through that episode because I knew the outcome.
Yeah.
But I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, what? I'm sitting there. I'm like, well, what if he chooses to get the surgery? I'm like, no, you fucking dumbass. But like, I'm sitting there. I'm
Which
like,
way is this gonna go?
I'm like, because I was getting wrapped into it. I'm like, oh my god. But like, it just that was a very moving documentary.
So what you're saying is we should have made it a 4-part series and tune in tomorrow to find out more.
Will Connor play for the Oilers this season? Check out tomorrow.
I was feeling it because I was like, oh my god, what are you going to choose, Connor? But then I could always go back to the fact that I knew what the outcome was. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it gave us that. It allowed us to see behind the scenes. We didn't know how bad it was. You get to kind of speculate a little bit just because you weren't hearing anything. He wasn't going to BioSteel camp, and then when you saw him skate, he was kind of still like you could tell he was still kind of rehabbing, if you will. But
the fact that he went to the mall and played mini golf.
Just like 2 days after the injury, 3 days after.
Connor, your balls are so big they can't even fit him in the deep sea adventure. Like, you know what I'm gonna do is go play some mini golf with the old lady. Then you can see.
And doesn't even go upstairs to the one that's completely hidden. You know, the glow one.
Public.
He goes into the one that's in the middle
In the
of the
fishbowl.
mall.
No low-key disguise.
No
Didn't wear a
low-key
hood.
disguise.
No
Nope.
mustache.
Huge
just
brace.
here I am, Edmonton.
Brace.
Huge brace. But even with his injury, it was like remarkable that he's walking around even just with no crutches. You know?
Well, that brace supported him a lot. What it did was it held his knee in the proper position so that the tendons could try and reattach themselves. It's an interesting injury. It's very different from an ACL tear, or an MCL, or a meniscus tear. You know, it is way more complex, right?
But is the PCL the only thing that you could try to I've never heard of letting tendons try to reattach.
Yeah.
Without surgical, now I've learned a term, surgical intervention.
Yeah. It depends how severe the tear is, right? So if you have a strain, like a grade 1 strain of your MCL, say, then you might try and do it non-surgically. But a full tear like he had is, like they said in the doc, like it's unheard of. It's unprecedented, and couldn't have been done without bringing together that all-star team of medical professionals, and even the people like his agent and his manager who was just there every day, like trying to make sure that his mindset was positive, that he wasn't alone, that he wasn't kind of ruminating on his career potentially being over. Or am I going to be back to where I was before? Right. Like that's all a really important side of it as well.
I think the whole team had quite the commitment to him, where the one guy, Mark Lindsay's saying, I'm going to have to live with him this is a 10-hour, 7-day-a-week job, and it has to be done right every day, and we don't totally know what we're doing, and hence why they had to go keep getting MRIs and seeing if what they were doing was working, or if they need to pump the brakes on it a bit, or actually accelerate it.
Yeah, and it's a risk too. Like you have to understand, like, doctors take calculated risks. When they see a devastating situation that someone comes to them for help, they almost have to say, like, do I want to put my reputation on the line? Like, do I want to be the guy that couldn't rehab Connor McDavid?
That's what he said in the doc. He's like, I didn't want to be involved in this.
Yeah. I said no way at first.
Like, that's nuts.
But Dr. Lindsay is a guy that doesn't shy away from that. Like, he's treated some of the top athletes and just most influential people in the world. He's treated Tiger Woods, Lindsey Vonn, Peyton Manning, a couple of NBA players, Prince Harry. Like, this guy's done everywhere.
That's crazy.
And it always showed underneath where these doctors were, usually from. Like they said, the Queen University is he out of Toronto? Like, is this was this team based out of Toronto? Is that where he did the majority of this rehab?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Connor being from Newmarket, he goes back for the summer. Dr. Lindsay operates within the GTA. And so that's why he moved in and just, knew that he had to keep him like psychologically engaged to this rehab process and not let him just sit on the couch.
Now, I'm a conspiracy guy.
Okay.
I enjoy the conspiracy theory. And I'm watching this and I'm like, miracle cure. I'm like, willed his tendons together. Sure. Do you think at some point they were like, oh, all the regular doctors think this suck. Let's phone Putin and see where he would send his guy. They sent him somewhere and they just gave him like gene therapy or some crazy shit. Like, Connor, you're in the hyperbaric chamber for 4 hours a day. We've also given you a donation of KGB genetics. Like, do you think it's like, is this just he's the pioneer of rehab?
So the kind of funny backstory to that is we were doing Donovan Bailey's documentary a couple years ago, and we actually interviewed Mark Lindsay because he's the one that rehabbed Donovan's Achilles tear back in the day. And after the interview, we were just kind of shooting the shit about Edmonton and the Oilers, and he said he had done some work with Connor. And I was like, what makes him so special? Like, what allows him, like, he's obviously got a mind for the game, but like physically, what is it? And he says, Connor, just his physiology operates at a higher level than most people, just in his ability to repair, his ability to recover from an intense training session. And also his gas tank seems to be endless. It just keeps going. And that's why he's able to be out on the ice in overtime for 4.5 minutes,
after playing 25 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So there is something physiologically special about him. And for example, the core movement specialist, Lisa Schlar, I think is how you pronounce it. She was telling us something, unfortunately it was off camera, but she was saying his femur is actually longer than most people's for his size.
Why wouldn't it
I
be?
knew it.
I've looked at his femurs and thought they were long.
Yeah. So you were right about that.
Oh,
You
good.
got a good eye.
Yeah.
And also the way his hips are positioned, he's got a little bit more of an inward stance, which allows him to get further or longer extension on his crossovers and his stride. So all these little things that kind of add up, and you think like, she told us something really interesting. She's got a few NHL players with her, and one of them comes, a famous one from where's Max Domi play these days? Montreal. There we go. He goes to her and he says, I want to get quicker on my crossovers. And she goes, well, first we got to do is lose that giant ass ears and shrink your glutes, because no longer is it about being big and powerful. It's about being quick, explosive, kind of in and out, shifty. And so they worked on like not growing his glutes and actually trying to shrink them. And that allows him more flexibility in his crossovers.
Because like Connor's a toothpick.
He's thicker than you think.
That was one of the things.
I think about him being thick.
That
all
was
the
one
time.
of the things. I'm like,
how many C's?
He literally made me think that I will never be like in really good shape, because that guy was working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week when he stared doing like real strength, and he's like, he ain't shredded. He's
well, I don't know about his definition, but I just like he doesn't look like he has a lot of meat on his bones.
Again, like I thought that too, but when I met him in person, like he's just like his forearms are thick. He reminds me of like
Let's slow that down here. I just want to keep going.
He reminds me of Jonathan Taves, because I met him back in like 08 or 09, and he doesn't look like a big guy, but you shake his hand, he's got giant mitts and big forearms. You're like, oh, like we're so used to seeing them with this gear and then like next to other big hulking players that they don't seem big, but like no, Connor's like he's got meat on his bones for sure.
Well, that I'm happy to hear that, because I need to those bones protected.
Another thing that I thought was super cool about him, and when you were talking about his physiology and just how he's like, he had to sit in that hyperbaric chamber for 2 hours a day. And in that time, he like took every chance he could to just do the small little things that might have made a huge difference. When he was talking about how he was just tensing his quadricep, he would just do it for 10 seconds and then let it go for 10 seconds. And like, I mean, I know.
Imagine thinking to do that for 2 hours.
Imagine, I couldn't. I mean, his level of commitment to these type of things is, you know, why he was able to do this, I think.
Imagine the stark difference of like how mundane that is compared to how exciting the rest of your life is. Like you're playing NHL games, you're practicing with the boys, you're off, you know, doing whatever you want because you've got $100 million in the summer. And then, no, we're going to lock you in a tube and you have to, for 2 hours, 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off.
And that's why when like, you know, you can do this, I'm sure like maybe twice in your career if you have like major injuries, but like if he ever gets, if anybody that's gone through this kind of process gets hurt again, that must flash in their mind. This summer, this is all I did. This was my life. I was trapped in these things. And that, getting over that mental hump right off the bat, that's got to be like, that's why guys break down. I guarantee, you know, like you see Luke Kuechly crying. He's probably thinking of all the stuff, you know, when you get hurt, what you have to go through to get back.
I say the same thing about making films. If you know how hard a project is going to be at the start, you probably wouldn't do it. It's the same with every project. You go, this is going to be easy. This is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, a million unforeseen problems pop up and you just get through it.
Now, speaking about, you know, being involved in making the project of this documentary, like this is Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid has a machine around him. How intense was that to be able to like being a part of the process of telling that story? Like, what was that like? Because like that to me would just be scary because of all the eyes that would be on you.
Well,
and layers and everything.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is, you know, his team, his management team, brought the documentary to our director Don Metz, and Don Metz brought me on board, and our editor and co-producer Pollyanna. And so, really, like, because we had the full support of Connor and his team on this project, we kind of had our in there. Like, there was no pushing to try and get access. There was no, you know, like, hey, we need to do this. Like, can we schedule it in and then don't get scheduled in? Like, everyone kind of helped us. And of course, a guy like Connor too, like the Oilers felt right in line of like, whatever you guys need. So like we needed to shoot in the dressing room for an hour, just shooting like mundane stuff with his gear up on the wall and like, you know, having the lights adjusted perfectly, which takes an hour. Like, everyone was super helpful and like really made this project come together.
Just in terms of like the process that went behind all of this, a lot of people, you know, they see the footage of him early on and, you know, him skating and all that, and they think, well, like the second he got hurt, there must have been film crews around him, but that wasn't necessarily the case, right? Like, when did you guys kind of get involved? What was the process up to the point of you guys getting involved?
Yeah, so I can't speak for his management team. I mean, the idea for the documentary might have kind of, I'd say if I had to guess, it probably came together as he got on the ice for that first time, because they're like, all right, we don't have to worry so much about this, that his career's over. And then it probably started percolating. When the idea came to our team, specifically Don, was in the end of the preseason. So we had a camera there at the first home game, and that's when we obviously caught Connor's goal there. But then the process really didn't kick off until the end of October, and that's when we went out to Ontario and started interviewing some of these doctors that were involved, Dr. Lindsay, Dr. Masha, to really get like the understanding physiologically of like what happened, so that we could use that to inform the questions for everyone else, and kind of almost as you're interviewing a Zach Cassian or a Mike Smith, you can kind of poke them with like, oh, like this is how severe it was, and this is what he underwent, and then they can reflect that back on their own career. So it's always a tricky thing when you're making a film to like decide what order to interview people in, because you know every interview is going to inform further questions down the line for other people.
Well, I think it worked great because when Gary Roberts tells a couple of things that just like send chills down my back. You know what I mean? Like, he was great in it, and all the doctors were so like good at telling their portion of the story in the whole thing.
When Gary Roberts was like, Connor skates too fast. This is your fault, Gary. You're the one who've been training him since he was 13. If he hadn't done such a good job on wind sprints, maybe be 2 kilometers an hour slower when he goes flying into the net.
And the stuff about Bobby Orr, like just saying that Bobby Orr said, people obviously often say I'm the best skater that's ever lived. Well, this kid's going to be it. And
when he was 15.
Years old.
That's what Bobby Orr called.
But that's what you got to say though to get him as your client, right? Yeah, exactly. You're like, if I say this 4 times in 20 years. What are these little bastards?
You know,
sign
if
with
you're
me?
Bobby Orr, you don't have to say shit.
I'm kidding.
But what does Bobby Orr do?
He's his agent.
He's his agent. Yeah.
He works
I thought
for the
Jeff- I
agency
thought that
group.
Jeff Jack.
Wow, it's all for or hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wasserman
Oh,
or
okay.
hockey are all.
Oh,
one big
I see. Okay, so
conglomerate.
Jeff Jackson is
Dr. Dre doesn't work with every rapper now. He just works with the producers.
very true. I don't know the inner workings of their little company.
To your point, like I don't understand the mechanics behind scouting a player that young. Like I don't know how you, because most people's development isn't linear, right? Like you have some of the best players at 15 fade out into nothing and don't even get drafted, and vice versa. So I don't know how you analyze a skating stride like Connor McDavid's and say he's going to continue that development into the NHL and be the best skater in the league.
Yeah, that's insane. Just back to like the doctors, kind of how lucky were you guys that they all were like so well spoken and so willing to come on, or was there maybe some difficulty with that?
Well, let me ask you this: if you had rehabbed the best hockey player in
Yeah.
the world, would you be excited to promote
Yeah,
yourself?
that's probably
And their recollection-
It
I mean,
it would be a designation on my business card.
Yeah, knowing that the interviews were done so far after the fact of they're actually doing the rehab. I mean, the recollection is just obviously amazing. But yeah, like
That's
I guess
interesting
that's
though.
a good
Like,
point.
if you're a doctor and Connor McDavid gets brought in, like not on a gurney, but like walks in, and you think like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
the amount of scrutiny that's going. It's the scrutiny Connor lives with every day doing his job.
Yeah.
You're gonna have for one patient once as a doctor,
Yeah.
right?
So this question could be for everyone, but since we only got you here, how hard was it to keep everything a secret when you found out that
This
you guys?
is what blows my
had-
mind.
It blows
I
my
couldn't be
mind.
trusted.
You son of a bitch! You knew when you
came-
were on the show last
you
time.
stone cold
and you
came
didn't-
in here.
You didn't
You
even
said
give
that-
us a
okay, tell-
nibble, a crumb of an idea.
Tell him what you said before we started recording. That you found out literally like right
Yeah.
before you came in here.
Like, well, I was on the show back in October 2019, and I think like that week, a day or two before I came on the show, I found out and I got asked to be on part of this project. And it was killing me because, I just know you guys love this team so much, but
We do, yeah.
I thought I might be better off focusing on all the other cool stuff I had done, knowing that like there's part 2 coming up.
Yeah, you held that
I
long
telegraphed this.
Your
You gave us more
legitimacy,
content.
your legitimacy, like you're almost too. You're way too legitimate to be on the show.
No, that's not
No,
in
no,
our
no.
dungeon.
Yeah.
Is it like you're? You probably don't want to talk about this, but I don't care. It's our show, and there's no one listening. Like your career, man, you're fucking killing it. Like getting documentary content to millennials is a difficult problem to solve for people. And if you look at all the streaming platforms and the proliferation of where you can get your content, documentary content is exploding because it's like reasonably cheaper to make a documentary than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, do you sit back and go, things are going pretty fucking good over here these days? Like, you're killing it, man.
Yeah, you try not to sit back too much. I'll be the first to admit, I think what I do is cool as fuck. Like, I really enjoy it. I've been super lucky just in the people that I've met along the way and the people that have given me opportunities. But like, I really think that if you bust your ass in something that you love, you're going to be successful. And that ultimately is kind of what I attribute my success to in this, working with the right people, getting the right opportunities, and then just not fucking it up.
So from a layman's perspective, what exactly is the role of an associate producer on something like
Ooh,
this?
good question. I'll listen to this.
Yeah, I don't.
That's good.
So every project would be different. It depends how many producers you have, how big the team is, what's the scope of the project. Smaller documentary, one producer might do every kind of producer role. But for this project specifically, as an associate producer I was brought on, I was the one that kind of did the estimated budget. I projected all that. I was also the production manager, so I planned all the trips, lined up all the schedules, booked all the flights and the travel. And then because we're so fortunate to have such a collaborative team on a lot of this stuff, I had a little bit of artistic input to it in terms of like, who might we interview or what some of the questions we might ask. So again, like this is really not typical as far as I know for a lot of documentaries, but like when our director is done asking his questions, he'll go, anyone else? Did something come up in the last hour that made you think of another question that I haven't asked? So I usually have a few, so I'll hop in the chair and then I'll ask a few more questions. And again, I've only been on my crew's sets, but I don't think that happens very often.
So I want to rewind this for posterity. The first project you worked on was
Which first documentary or first film
sports
project?
documentary.
Making Coco, the Grant Fuhr story.
Making Coco. Then you did Donovan Bailey.
Yeah, the Bailey Experience.
Then there was an MMA one.
Yeah, so
Michael
we're
Bisping,
in
right?
editing right now on Bisbing, the Michael Bisbing story.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
I brought I brought a trailer to
Fighter
show you
from
guys
England.
after.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, were you involved in the Danny Trejo one?
I was an executive producer on that. So I didn't
Chucked him an EP.
Yeah.
Hold on, the actor?
Yeah.
Danny Trout.
Chalmers'
I
mind's
fucking
getting
love
blown.
Danny.
He doesn't know what to do.
I'll show you the trailer for that.
He doesn't know what to do.
Oh, I love that guy.
So you've got, this is your 4th sports documentary in the can.
That's correct. And we're in production on a new one on Phil Heath.
Is this about Connor and Lauren's
Heath.
baby that only you know about because you can keep secrets?
No, I can't confirm or deny anything.
So you're not denying they're having a baby.
There is.
This will be some clickbait headlines.
I'm aware of 0 babies.
If I had an Instagram account, I'd get the word out Connor's having a baby, but I don't, and I can't.
Chuck's engaged and Connor's having a baby.
I think he's met Leonard the Labradoodle.
Wow, so if we're all done asking professional
Whoa,
questions.
whoa, whoa. Let's get our facts straight. Bernedoodle.
Oh, Labradoodle. What did I say?
Labradoodle.
whatever.
Come on.
Very
Doodle.
different.
I have several
do that to
questions
Leonard
regarding
Thomas.
the intimate minutia of Connor McDavid.
All right. I will try and answer them to my best of my ability.
So
for
let's
you.
ignore for the fact if I hacked your phone and tracked your GPS movements, chances are you've been to his house in the last 90 days and I could reverse engineer where Connor lives. Let's just pretend I won't do that
if
to
one
you.
were so inclined.
If, yes. Having met Connor McDavid in a very difficult portion of his life, and there are people out there who'll be like, he didn't have a hard day, he has $100 million, balderdash.
Yeah.
For a guy like Connor, the summer he went through is worse than any summer we've had, not knowing all of our summers.
Yep.
Agreed.
If somebody came in here today and said, well, it'd be like, your Instagram account got deleted, you can't do your job. Yeah, but I'm like, fine otherwise. Tell us like what you think about Connor now, having spent this much time with him. Like what did you pick up as a result of this about him?
You know, he's a really intense guy. Like he's really focused. He's really like attentive to the task at hand. You can see that the pressure of the market that he plays in, his position as captain on the team, the contract that he has to live up to, all these things, like, and not even speaking of to sponsorship obligations, like people think professional hockey players have an easy life, right? Like they think, oh, you go to practice, you get your meals there, you go play a game, you train, you travel first class. Like everyone thinks it's easy, but what they don't see is like every day off is like, okay, we got to go do this Go Auto thing, and then it's an Adidas thing, and then it's a BioSteel thing, and then we've got to go sign 1,000 jerseys or whatever. Like it's just it's never ending for the guy. So when they talk about like wanting to unwind, whether it's All-Star break or whether it's the summer, they genuinely mean it. Like they eat, sleep, and breathe hockey during the season.
Well, and Connor has since he was knee high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, exactly. But what's really interesting is like he didn't play a lot of summer hockey either. Like
As a tot?
when he was 10 years old, one of his teammates' parents asked his dad. He said, "I noticed Connor's not coming to the brick tournament in Edmonton." His dad said, "Oh yeah, we thought we'd give him a break. We got other things to do."
He'll play enough hockey there down the road. Wink. How did he know?
But the dad goes, the other dad, he goes, well, like we talked to some people. We'll pay for Connor to come out. Connor's dad goes, again, like, we've got things planned. Like, sorry. He goes, well, we'll pay for you and your wife to come out too. And that's when Connor's dad goes, look, we have money. We're fine. Like, it's not about the money. We genuinely have other things. And we don't think Connor needs to be playing year round. And it's just like, it's funny because we're in such an age of like pounding kids through these sports. It's nonstop.
It's
specialization year round that like, you don't need to do that to be successful.
Is he able to come home to the house that we won't say where he lives because, we won't, but can he unplug? Or is he like permanently turned on and he's like Obama, goes to bed Obama, sleeps Obama, wakes up Obama, there's only Obama?
No, he definitely chills
That's what
out.
Leonard's for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got a 6-month-old puppy, you live with your girlfriend, like, you do other normal things. Like you said earlier, he's at West Edmonton Mall playing mini golf. It's like surprisingly, like, I'm surprised how normal he can be given his stature, right? And granted, like, keep in mind, like, when we saw him, when we spent time with him, like, we're still there with a camera. Like, it's not like I was over at his house for dinner and we're just chilling out.
You probably have, but we don't have to talk about that right now because we got to keep our
episode
secrets.
3.
Yeah, exactly.
I did have a dinner with him at my dad's house the night he signed his contract.
What?
And
Did he tip somebody standing around because he felt okay.
Oh boy.
Start swinging if you guys don't stop breaking my equipment.
Yeah, I
It's
fucked
stuck
things up
on my
earlier.
shoe.
Sorry.
You
I'm
were
still
with
alive.
him the night he signed a $100 million
It
contract.
took everything in me not to like ask him like what was going through his head at that
How did
time.
this come to be? How did you end up with him?
Because he's a goddamn boss, Charles. Don't embarrass us.
He's a producer.
He's
He's
the
a
guy.
documentary.
You don't want to know the exact reason he was.
I don't.
I just happened to be at a place having dinner when he came.
Just
in
walking
and-
by and said, "Hey, I'm going to invite myself in."
Yeah.
Did someone say dinner? All right, I'm in.
Yeah, so just hold
So
your
this was
horses
a
out.
restaurant. I thought he said he was having
He
dinner
did.
at
We're
his
trying
dad's.
to press him for information, Chalmers. I'll explain it to you when you're
I'm
older.
like, why was Connor in your
I'll
house?
tell you when you're older. Don't worry. So, ignoring that you're with him on the $100 million, well, maybe that's a good time to compare. That's arguably one of the high points of
Yeah.
his life.
Yeah.
And then you were with him during one of the. I suppose you already knew he's not out of the game.
Yeah.
Is he remarkably consistent through those highs and lows?
Well, yeah, I'd say so. Like he's polite. He's well spoken. He's engaging when you engage him. Like there's not anything out of the ordinary with him.
You go for dinner with me, Chalmers, when I sign a $100 million contract. I have a stack of hundreds beside me at the table, and I just slap people for no reason during the meal.
Do you apologize with a $100
no,
bill?
throw money at him. I go, bitch, there's where that came from.
Well,
Here you go.
It seems like Connor has the perspective that his parents had as a young kid with him. Just the perspective of everyday life. You just got to be respectful and and understand that you're amazing. But
keep in mind too, like you get used to, you acclimatize to situations, right? Like you're making $100 million, like that becomes the new normal, and you don't think every day, I can't believe I'm making $100 million.
See,
You probably should.
I would
but-
argue it's the normalization to it that ultimately fucked you over.
Yeah.
Is when you're like, I do have $100 million anyways, and then you're like on to the next thing, but you haven't necessarily like, look at Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
Had he sat down and processed, like, I have $100 million, especially getting it all in one shot every July, like that's gotta be, it's not even measured out throughout the year. It's like every July you get a check for 12 million gross. Like,
How do you not lose touch with reality, being that rich?
maybe
and
all
wealthy?
that mundane stuff that you talked about earlier, maybe that's what keeps him grounded. Maybe it's like, I was watching the Justin Bieber documentary just came out, Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 10-minute increments on YouTube. I watched 2 documentaries this week. Well, actually like 20, but that's fine. And they talked about how when he wanted to get out of being on sabbatical, we'll call it, he called up his one agent and she's like, "Oh, you want to work again?" And then I just rolled him out his schedule. It's like, here's your vocal coach time. Here's your this time. Here's your that time.
Yeah.
And he went from not being busy to busy.
Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily have the same team around him that it sounds like a Connor has, right?
I think what it comes down to is for Connor, hockey and winning is the number one priority. I think, even though you've got all that money, like it doesn't really change anything because your goals are still to win the Stanley Cup, right? And win the Art Ross and the Hart and all those other things. But
And
number
likely
one,
the Masterson this year.
yeah, right. Well,
it better.
if this documentary can play a small part in that, I'll
Oh
be
fuck!
pumped.
It has.
Oh,
and-
yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, it will.
I'll shout that out when he wins it.
You mentioned like his drive for winning. I felt like that was something his dad even shared, because in one of the first quotes from his dad after the injury was like, "Well, there's only so many years where you can be at your best and win Stanley Cups." His dad says winning Stanley Cups. What did you think of like getting a chance to meet and interact with his parents? What were your impressions of them?
So
Good question.
It's funny because I the first time
I was like, I know. Anyways,
the first time I met Brian, I was working on a Good Life downtown, and he just happened to be there. And I'd never met him before, but I recognized him from TV. So I kind of like walked up, and I'm like, "You Connor's dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, cool. I'm releasing a doc in Toronto in the next couple months about Grant Fuhr. Like, you guys should come." And so we just talked, and the Oilers.
Who
were in
has
middle
the
of it.
presence of mind to walk up to Mr. McDavid? This is why you're too legit for this show.
No, I just had a reason to be there, and that's all, right? Like, just like trying to get
but
him
the
down to the
swag
show.
to go up to
Yeah.
McDavid's dad and invite him to an event.
I'd be texting Jay, like, look at this blurry picture of Connor's dad's ankle I took.
But here's the funny thing. So 2 years later, I meet him in Toronto doing the interview with him and his wife. And he looks at me when I introduce myself, and I'm like, "We met." But like, he gave me that look like, "Have we met before?" I'm like, "We met before. One time in Edmonton at Good Life." He's like, "Oh, that's right. Yeah. You did the documentary on Grant Fuhr." And I was like, "That's
Jeez.
right. I sure did."
Amazing
Touch
recall.
points with the McDavid family.
He's an intense guy. Like, Brian is like not intense, like scary, but he's very like directed. Like, and he's very like thoughtful and precise with what
What's
he says.
directed mean? What do you mean?
Like, he's just like, he has a mission. He's there for a reason, and he delivers on that, whatever that goal or that objective is. Like, there's one line that sticks out to me that he goes, "To say Connor was distraught is the best way I can put it, and even then it's still underdescribed." To like throw together that phrase to me is like so impactful, because it's like who calls something they said underdescribed? Like, it was just very eloquent, but I just remember thinking like, this guy's legit.
What does Mr. McDavid do?
I don't know that exactly.
Now probably nothing. He just watches his investment pay off.
He still works, and he's successful at whatever he
probably-
does.
yeah, he
I just
strikes
don't know
me-
whatever he does.
he
I
strikes
just
me
don't know
someone
what it
who's-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
But
strikes
he's the
me-
best at it.
Yeah.
He's the best at it.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
So I got a question about the life of this documentary. Now that
right.
it's been on Sportsnet,
Yeah.
it's obviously been Friday night, Saturday night. What is the future for it? Like, where if somebody wanted to get it on demand, type of thing?
It's going to be on Sportsnet twice more. And I'm just going to pull up the dates here so I get them right. Tuesday, February 4th at 6 p.m. going into the Edmonton, Arizona game. And then again, Wednesday, February 19th on Sportsnet at 5 p.m. leading into the Bruins at Oilers game.
Very good.
And then it is going to be in the U.S. nationwide on NBC February 18th.
Oh, shit.
Whoa,
Really?
nice.
Yeah. NBC or NBC Sports? Is it like the big dog NBC?
NBC Sports.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Way to crush my
Yeah, way to
dreams.
diminish that.
I just
Wow.
need for the
But we
sake.
can't talk about that other thing.
No, we won't.
Okay.
Oh, whoa!
but
there's another thing.
Keep you.
Tune in next time.
Yeah, tune in.
Oh God!
But it's going to be on NBC.
You
Like,
want
they
to talk
always
about being
pick up-
directed?
You just
Jeez.
pull your mask off, your cam, McDavid. Yeah. Why do you think I did that documentary?
You guys should have showed up to the podcast earlier.
That's when all the good
talked
stuff
a
comes
lot of
out.
good
Off
stuff.
the record, baby.
We were indisposed.
We were busy at an Oodle Noodle meeting, which just happens to be now a new sponsor,
of the
Nation
podcast.
Real Life.
Yeah. It is.
We did it. We were able to convince
You
ourselves.
closed yourselves?
We closed ourselves.
Here was the speech, Chalmers. We're sitting at an Oodle Noodle marketing meeting, and they're like, "Can anyone think of ways to market Oodle Noodle?" And Jay and I are sitting there. Does anybody have an idea for how to promote Oodle Noodle more? Wait, Wanye, what are you doing? I got to go to a meeting later on because I got to find advertisers for our podcast. Do you think maybe A plus B equals C? And then it counts as both. We did Oodle Noodle marketing work, and we found a podcast sponsor.
That's a good day, hey, boys?
Bingo, bango, bongo.
Please remove my real government
Do
name.
guests get free vouchers?
Of
or what's
course,
going
we'll
on?
get you anything you want.
we'll
Well,
hook you
not
up.
superstar guests that are bloody flying
So
all
there's
around.
two
Connor
exciting
McDavid.
things in the world of Oodle Noodle that are happening. We're about to launch deep fried wontons, and I did the product
What
sampling.
sauce are you going to be dipping them in?
It's with our green onion cake sauce.
What does that mean?
It's like a sweet sour sauce.
It's like a
But
Chili's.
You know what? They're fucking so good. Like legit.
Yeah, I don't
like,
dip them much.
I'm such a good brand ambassador. I'm swearing about
Yeah.
about
It's authentic,
Oodle Noodle.
though.
As the Oodle Noodle marketing manager, continue. I like it. It
But
speaks to our audience.
Honestly, we did the sampling over yesterday, and I was like, oh my god, okay, why haven't we done these for like 9 years? So those are coming out right away. So stay tuned. And also, we're opening.
What was that?
That's number 2.
That's for a fact because we're about to open the Terwilliger location.
Yes, Terwilliger.
Wow,
we had a
congrats.
chime you didn't hear.
Finally, the South Siders.
Yeah. So we did it. So we're able to deliver to the south, all you Terwilliger towners and McGrathers and whatnot. We're
a lot
going to
of
be
us.
bringing the heat. Starting next week, but we're doing the soft opening this week, which I probably shouldn't publicly announce, but whatever.
No one's
Who
listening.
cares?
I
Who
like
cares?
it. When's this going? When are you releasing this?
Tomorrow,
fuck.
tonight.
Tonight.
We don't have good secrets like you do. Like if somebody drove by the Terwilliger store right now, they'd be like, I think that's an Oodle Noodle because it says Oodle Noodle on it, and they keep driving.
I better
Or-
post on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know what other secrets you have. It's very interesting.
And we'll be introducing everyone to the world, everyone in the world to Carl.
Oh, Carl.
our newest employee. Anyways,
newest-
that's a
Oh,
little
congrats,
Easter.
Carl.
Don't worry, Chalmers.
Lots of fun stuff
Oh, yeah.
happening.
Anyways,
Before we continue with the documentary talk, we need to give some love to our good friends at Japa, who are
Back-to-back
also
ads.
a sponsor of the show. As pipeline work kicks off in Alberta, Japa Machinery Group has new and used 36 and 47-ton excavators available for rent and purchase to complement your existing fleet's XE470s. They'd look good on your site. They might look good, and we couldn't fit one in the basement, but maybe we get like a little model one.
we can make
stick
a
it
new
on it.
basement with one. I'll tell you that much.
Darn right we could.
We
We'd probably get our
probably
Instagram account back with it.
Oh,
Drive that down to San Francisco up to Instagram headquarters. They'll give it back.
Jabba has the service trucks available to assist on any repairs or winter maintenance your machines might need in the field, or if you need any ice lugging or tarping, bring your equipment to their shop out in Atchison. Love Japa.
I was talking to Sean Green this weekend over ice fishing.
It was a good time.
It was a great time. What a great day.
Yeah.
And the Japa crew, the Japa team, they're humming. Business is good.
He loves his heavy machinery. He even
he
just
loves heavy machinery.
he was drilling way too many holes with his fucking gas powered
Japa auger?
Oh my god!
He was a little trigger happy on the holding, but to be fair on that one that he did dig, the extra one,
Yeah.
he was instructed by someone.
He drilled. Let's just tell. So we were having a fire on
Have
the
you ever
ice.
ice fished?
You ever
No,
had-
never.
So
Really?
I've seen pictures of it.
So we were having a fire on the ice. Well, what happens is the fire starts to melt the ice, and you get a little pool of water. So the geniuses around us decided to take a handheld auger and make little tiny holes, like displacement holes, right?
Yeah, and
That would
just shovel the water into
and then
it.
shovel the water into it.
Surgical
Water goes
intervention.
away.
It was a
Well,
surgical intervention, yes.
Sean went and grabbed the gas powered one and came over to the fire, put it right beside the fire, drilled a full one, all the way down, full
Yeah.
depth. when that happens, the water all just comes
levees
up.
broke.
It was just drenched the fire. Got cold. We had to go inside.
We also did our friend Fugi, who we might introduce on the show one day
man.
as a guest.
He'd be
A
a
good
treat.
friend. This guy is the most Albertan guy you'll ever meet. He's
made
got
all these.
He's made these tables for us. He's got a Canadian flag on one shoulder and an Alberta flag on the other shoulder.
So he lives in a Flames jersey.
He's a walking Flames jersey.
wow.
Big
that's harsh.
Wexic guy or what?
No. He's not that hardcore. He's got a good heart.
No, great heart.
But this guy loves fire. He's almost burnt his house down numerous times. He's had the fire department. His house. They basically
He loves fire, but he's reckless with it.
He's exactly because he likes to go big.
Yes.
So
As most pyros are.
So
he's pyro.
So for this ice fishing trip, he's like, I've got a surprise for you guys. We're like, what? Okay, and so everyone's like naming all these like fire things. And
Are you making a Connor McDavid documentary?
That's the only fire
all
the
of a
weekend
sudden,
needed.
this is the gifts of what he's gonna do are rolling through the group chat, and then so all of a sudden he shows up and he's got a Christmas tree.
His dried out Christmas
His dried
tree.
out Christmas tree has been drying out, waiting for this, and he's got it on this wood base.
Oh yeah.
A 2x10.
And the plan is he's going to get all these rags, douse them with gasoline, and put them into the tree, and then he's going to light this spear on fire and throw it at the tree, and
Like
then
an
ignite it.
Olympics opening.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Burning Man.
But the one
Holy
thing you
shit.
need to know about Mikey is he is so excited. So
And
like
can't throw a spear for shit,
Well,
probably.
but he's been up since 5 a.m.
setting this thing up,
counting
getting
the
everything.
seconds to when he can chuck this spear at this tree. Like when can we start the fire? We're like, it's
And
daylight.
we
He's like-
tell him, yeah, you can't do it until 5.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's getting consistently more into his
Lubricated,
cups.
yeah.
More
so
into his
he's starting practicing the spearing. It's not going well. Every hour, half hour that goes by,
Gets
it's
worse.
just it's getting worse. And so finally, he just straight up does it.
He did it.
It just goes
He
and
took
douses
all this
it.
gas, so he got a little bit less surgical because he just dumped gas on the tree, and then chucked this spear at it. But it was actually amazing, and we've got the video. And maybe we should. I don't know how long it is, but maybe you could post it
It's
on
about
social.
15 seconds of actual fire.
Gee, that'd be
But
great.
it's
Where would we
actually-
post it?
Yeah, if we
only
had any social media.
Well, I'll have to put it on the fledgling one, Nation Real
Bah,
Life.
the worst.
I know.
Yeah, no, this is a way to build it up. Come to Nation Real Life and we'll start doing Oilers Nation stuff on it.
Chalmers, I've been trying to build up the Instagram for
I'm not
real
saying
life.
me, I'm
for a
saying you
year.
guys.
You
Yeah,
asked.
step
You
by
won't
step.
even put a comment on the photos, and now all of a sudden you're Johnny social media group.
I mean, I have ideas. I'm an idea man. I'm not the one that's gonna be putting the
Sorry,
comments.
we digress. But
Yeah.
Job Machinery Group.
Yeah, that was a really long ad read for Japa.
Or whichever ad we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Go there.
Sure.
Bills are paid. Question for you.
All right.
Yes, good to go back to our guest because that's the reason
Well,
we're
of
recording
course,
this.
but this is of course.
I like hearing
And-
about anyone who's passionate about something as much
And-
as this guy is about fire.
well, you got to meet this guy. He's truly a legend. It's a Connor McDavid question. Like, you said he was like he's intense, and his parents portray him as intense and whatnot. But like, was he did he get involved in this at all, or was he just like, I'm here to answer questions and that? Like, did he want to be involved in the process at all?
He had a lot of shit going on, like
I know.
they're in a dogfight for a divisional spot. No, he trusts. Like, we showed him a couple of the interviews along the way. Like, we showed him his and his girlfriends and a couple of doctors, and then we showed him a rough cut, and just to make sure and that's what we do with all our subjects is make sure that we're on the right track and there's no like major things that need to structurally be changed. Of course, there's going to be notes, and the music's not the right music. And the transitions aren't smooth, and there's all this crap. But yeah, he just kind of dropped in for a couple of the major key points along the way. But like, yeah, he had too much stuff going on. But
like, sorry, I didn't mean like, was he like behind the camera and doing so like, but like, was he involved in like having a say on like what was shown and what wasn't? Like, I wanted to know, like, because obviously I think he would be a guy that wanted to protect his own image and make sure he's portrayed properly. Like,
Yeah.
I would assume he's that type of guy.
his biggest concern with it was not so much making it to be this like big puff piece about him, right? It was more about like for him, it was more about the doctors and what they were able to accomplish, and hopefully like setting up a structure and a model for like that type of rehabilitative process going forward, right? Like, I've got messages from a few like people high up in like the sporting world or medical world being like, this is really groundbreaking to see that someone can rehab this type of injury with this type of treatment. It really makes us rethink our whole sort of mindset around whether we go surgical or not.
Yeah, right. All it's going to happen is a generation of people are going to hear from their doctor, you're no Connor McDavid. Some people can will themselves back to whole.
Yeah.
You aren't that guy.
But keep in mind, doctors get paid per surgery, right? So, yeah, well, especially in the States, right? So for them to say, no, you don't need surgery is taking money out of their pocketbook.
And that's something that struck me.
What's a pocketbook?
Pocketbook. That's some
People still use
what people call
pocketbooks.
wallets.
We got a pocket
What struck
watch,
me was
a
just
handkerchief.
like, no matter how many times you can see an injury in a body, these things are never the same. And you can go to 3 different doctors. Just like the guy in LA agrees with doctor number 2 of exactly what it is, but says surgery is risky. Yeah. Where he, in his mind right now, he's thinking surgery might be the only way, right? And that must just be like, holy shit. Like, I'm talking to the people that know this the best, and I'm getting different opinions as to what to do. I'm 22 years old, and I have to make this decision, like he says, in 24 hours.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's unbelievable.
Wouldn't want to be in that
to
position.
tell the story of the doctors that actually go through the recovery with him, the core specialist, like the chiropractor and soft tissue guy, Mark Lindsay, those guys are truly the heroes, even though he is the one that had to put in the work to make it happen. So
yeah,
I can see why you'd want to do that.
It's a super comprehensive team of people working together, right? Like you have not only the doctors, but then you've got, like you said, core movement specialists. You've got Gary Roberts in there. You've got the figure skater, Tracy Wilson. You've got Lawson Hammer, the gymnastics specialist. You've got Adrian Valaka, the head trainer at Gary Roberts Sport and High Performance Center, whatever it is. A lot of people working together to make sure that they're not agitating someone else's position or making sure that what they do doesn't impact negatively his knee or what other people plan to do with it. There's a lot of moving parts with this.
Sorry, I'm trying for jumping in. I think we need to send 1 million thank you cards
To all those
to
doctors.
doctor number 3.
Yeah.
The one in LA.
Doctor number 3, the third
call.
opinion, was the only one to suggest rehab.
And that was the guy that Jeff Jackson set up. They weren't it was just, they didn't have to go do that.
We've been sending thank you cards to the Flames for treating James Neal.
Anytime James Neal scores, he gets
And now
inundated.
it's getting to the
that's
point where they
goodwill.
send stickers back to people. They're sending them the mail, which actually credit the Flames for playing
Yeah,
along.
play along.
Maybe we got to switch our letter writing over to thanking Connor's doctor.
I think you guys did such a good job of telling the story in the small little nuanced parts that I noticed, which was just saying when he went to the core specialist that they didn't want to just shock his body, and that now that Mark Lindsay decided that it was a time to take care of everything that had been going on in his body.
Yeah.
Not just focus on this knee, but let's get a protocol together that's going to take care of any hip motions or any hip movements that he's had. The fact that you guys just got all that information, that stuff, it was nonstop watching it and seeing these little things that just, I don't know, I was gripped. I watched it 3 times.
It's Gemini worthy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Really?
What do you think
It is not.
Is that a music award though? Or no, it's the Junos. I was right with Gemini.
No, Gemini, you're
look at
bang
me.
on. No, well done.
Yes.
The a lot of credit goes to the people we interviewed, obviously, for being able to talk so candidly. And the important thing with all of them was saying, look, just this is owned by Connor, this project, and he will vet and his team will vet everything that you say. So be transparent, be as honest as you can with what you did, and if there's anything compromising, we can cut it out down the line.
Was there anybody that you wanted in the documentary that you sought out that didn't participate in it because of a reason that maybe they didn't want to or something?
No, everyone we wanted to ultimately the team decided to have in it. I suggested, along with Pollyanna, our editor and co-producer, I was let's go big with this thing. Let's talk to athletes in other major sports that have had potentially career-threatening injuries.
Adrian Peterson would have been
Adrian,
one.
he was on my list. Adrian Peterson, Tiger Woods, Lindsey Vonn, Peyton Manning. Those were my
Tiger
top.
Woods was on your list of people you want to talk
Those
to?
were my top 4, and
Golly.
we've interviewed a lot of these top athletes and business people. So I thought why not? Let's go for them.
Yeah.
When you tell them you're doing a documentary about Connor McDavid, it's not just you're doing something on knee, you're doing something, and they might want to, maybe they haven't had a documentary done about it. I was crazily impressed with how AP came through that one back in the day. So
well, and the producer in me thinks okay, hockey's not that big in the States, so let's add a crossover appeal.
Yeah.
Let's add an athlete or a couple athletes in there that people in the States really, well, around the world really care about. And yes, they may not know Connor, but to speak of that athlete mindset and the pressure that you're under and potentially facing your career being different or over, I thought was really valuable. But ultimately, we didn't want to distill the message of it being about Connor and his doctors.
This is so well thought out. They're going to let you make the new Avatar if you don't watch your stuff. You got this shit going on.
You got 9 years to do it.
I have no interest in going into scripted work at this point.
Yeah.
I'll do the documentary of making Avatar, but
So, one last thing about just the way that you guys made it and like the decision to, this kind of comes into the fact that we have a Battle of Alberta coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna
Like,
say, what about the documentary on Wednesday night?
Yeah, the fact that like you know Mike Smith is right there, and now you have that access to him, him being one of Connor's teammates and friends at this point, and like you know you got Cassian, who was the first person on site, right, and you get like Giordano just to my heart like kind of my wife and I were both like feeling really bad for Giordano.
Do not feel bad for Giordano. Fuck that guy.
He did not mean to do that, and it's why Cassian didn't even touch him.
Maybe you shouldn't sign with the Flames, Gio, in the second half of your career. Maybe you should go to a better team.
So I'll tell you what Cassian said that did make it into the film, and which is really interesting.
Exactly right.
Right. So he's coming down like behind Connor because Connor's the fastest person on the planet. Yeah. But he saw Connor go down. He saw Gio trip him, and his mind, he was conflicted at first. He was like, do I jump Giordano? Do I go make sure Connor's all right? Like he didn't know what to do at first because it was a hockey play, right? But he said his gut instinct was that it wasn't dirty based on who it was, and so that's why he went straight to Connor versus like creating a brawl, right?
Man, I wish you would have said that on the documentary.
Now, will he be creating a brawl tomorrow night?
No inside information on that.
No, but
I sure hope so.
No, I'm talking to Shane, the Oilers fan.
The Oilers fan. Well, I think like he kind of telegraphed what he's going to do, right? By saying that, okay, it's good. I didn't know those types of hits were legal, but now I do. Right, like that's what he said, and so I don't think we should encourage those types of hits that Tkachuk put on Cassian, but how can you fault him for doing that?
Now, if he delivers a hit like that on someone not named Tkachuk, Milan Lucic, Zach Ronaldo, or Buddy Franklin, he's going to get suspended.
Potentially.
Yeah. Which, that's the double standard that drives me up the fucking wall.
So I don't know if you guys watched the skills competition.
No love for my Buddy Franklin reference.
I liked it. I was going to make a mention of it.
For all our Australian listeners, will love that one.
I didn't know who you were referring to. That's why
who is it?
Buddy Anderson. It's some guy they called up, some 6'6" donkey.
Oh, yeah.
But also to that point, like you have to ask yourself: is Cassian the guy that's going to premeditatedly, if that's even a word, try and deliver that hit? Like he had that one that Flames fans were posting on the San Jose Sharks in the playoffs, where he just dummied a guy kind of coming at the bottom of the circle, turning up the ice. Great hit, but that was like in the moment. That wasn't a predatory hit. Like Cassian doesn't seem like the type of guy nowadays.
That's finishing. That's a finishing check on an uncontended puck carrier.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, yes.
So no, I don't think he's going to throw a predatory hit. Like, is he going to, if a hit presents itself? Yeah, for sure he's going to go for it.
Well, the premeditation is he's going to be looking for it.
Yeah. So in the skills, back to this. Did you guys see when McDavid was sitting on the bench, like on the actual boards, Tkachuk was on one side and Draisaitl was on the other. And the way I experienced this conversation going was Draisaitl, it was only showing Tkachuk talking.
You're a wicked lip reader, by the way, so I believe whatever you're saying.
So I couldn't tell what they were saying, but I could tell body language. Draisaitl wanted nothing to do with it, but McDavid was listening, commenting, but rolling his eyes.
To Tkachuk talking?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so that's how I witnessed
breakdown
this.
for someone who didn't see this.
That's how I witnessed it. Yeah. And so I witnessed
So Tkachuk's blabbing away about whatever he's trying to say.
I think he's trying to justify himself. Like, I'm just a card player. And Connor's like, yeah, but you fucking this bullshit. And it's bullshit, right? Like, what you're saying is bullshit. And you're going to have to stand up for the bell and just answer the bell or something. And rolling his eyes and just like having no part of it. And Draisaitl just kind of giving him that stare. Anybody else see this or is that just me?
You're doing an awesome job.
Yeah,
I didn't see it, but that would be incredible if that was the actual.
It was.
I would love that.
Because it was
I don't doubt it. He watches. He knows.
How funny is Draisaitl, by the way? Throwing the fuck you to Tkachuk after he gave him that assist, and then kind of laughing about it, like, "Oh, we're just having fun." And then I don't know if you guys saw, but after the Edmonton mall skate the other day, he gets asked. One of the media goes, "Hey, have you ever been to the mall before?"
Oh,
and he
yeah,
looks at him. He's like, "I've been here 6 years," and kind of looks at him. He's like, "Yeah, I've been to the mall." Like,
but
you idiot.
His tone like changed. Because you're right. He was like, "What the fuck?" And then his tone changed. He's like, "Oh, media. Yeah, the mall's great." And then he like goes into like his rehearsed answer.
But his real personality shone through in that second. And like I met Leon at Connor's house one of these times. And he's super engaging. Like he's an awesome. He made me an even bigger Draisaitl fan. I already was based on the way he plays.
Well, he's a good dude.
Having met him in person, he's just very engaging and like asks you questions and like doesn't just answer the questions that you ask him.
I think that
Germans.
They're better friends than I think we can tell. I mean, as somebody who doesn't know the ins and outs of it, but like they went on vacation together to Aspen.
Well,
along with a couple others,
which was nice to see.
But they're always
Big ass
In
PJ.
In my favorite videos that you guys got was from the tunnel. Him going into the tunnel when he says I broke down and they take his helmet off, and I just fucking would have done anything to have had a camera on the other side to see his face, right? But then when he's back out and he's on his crutches and he's on his phone, and Draisaitl just like walks around the corner, just like rubs his head, kind of puts his head next to his.
That's one of my favorite shots in the whole doc.
That is one of my favorite. And then the awkward guy that walks after who doesn't know.
Yeah, who was that, by the way?
I have no idea.
One of the assistant coaches?
Yeah, something like that.
You mentioned that tunnel footage before we started filming. That was an interesting little process to get that, right?
Yeah, so we were down in Calgary, must be 3 weeks ago, a month ago, doing the interview with Giordano, and their PR guy was around, and so we just kind of asked him, like, our director has a good relationship, and he said, hey, like, you guys don't have any cameras in this hallway, do you? And he goes, yeah, we got a security camera there that shoots down the hallway. And he says, could we get that footage of that night, April 6th? And he goes, yeah, I think I could probably. He goes, just keep in mind, like, when your guys' arena flooded and you lost all your archival footage, I helped you out getting that back, right? And he was like, yeah, you did. Okay, we'll track the footage down for you.
Flex.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing.
Hold
how
on.
these
When
things come
the
together.
Flames arena flooded, we helped them?
Don Metz did.
Director,
This is
yeah,
bullshit.
Don-
I'd be like, fuck you. Nobody wants to see all your terrible highlights anyways.
But karma came around. Karma came around.
Yeah.
That's how we got the shots paid off.
Gotta put that good juju out
True,
there.
true.
That
But not
paid
the Flames.
dividends.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to the trouble of flooding their city, and they still haven't figured it out.
They did
Hey?
the- they
We
did the-
dynamited that dam upstream
Let's
and everything.
be like the hockey gentlemen and let's keep it on the ice, you know?
Yeah.
Help each other out.
Chalmers, if I owned an NHL team, I would hire the vice director of the KGB, and I would say destabilize
KGB,
all the
it's
players.
always
They get
Russians,
it because
eh?
they get it. We don't
they
get
get
it.
it.
We're sitting around here trying to figure out what to do. Meanwhile, they're building hospitals in China in 4
Is
hours.
this called the Russians get it?
Anywho, I'd be like, please find out everything about the other players and tell their secrets online. So they go into games being like, damn, my girlfriend's going to leave me. Someone hacked my DMs. Next thing you know, 7-2 Oilers.
The last documentary related question I had for you, it's in line with the Calgary stuff. But how kind of, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but Giordano seemed like really open to like coming on and sharing his side of things. Kind of how nice was that to sort of round things out, just to have his kind of voice and opinion in all this?
Yeah, I mean, like, you saw his interview after, and he clearly didn't mean to hurt Connor. Did he mean to take him down and get the puck away? Of course. But, you know, it's like Nick Kyprios taking out Pronger onto Fury, or Pronger taking Kyprios out, rather. It's a hockey play. Like, you meant to, like, get in his grill. You meant to rattle him a bit, but you don't mean to hurt a guy. No one ever wants to see someone go down like that because it's bad for the game in general.
And Gio, I hate to admit it, is reasonable.
Yeah, he's.
How dare you?
I
How
didn't fully
dare you?
admit it.
He's one of the solid.
I just sort of
guys.
trailed off into gibberish. You'll note he's sort of
He's okay.
no, I never said that.
Okay, whatever.
Don't use that shit against me.
You know, and like, what would you do in that position? Like,
Yeah.
every one of us, if we were blessed with that kind of skill that Gio had, and we're in that exact same, you would have done the same thing, right?
And there's haters. I'm sure players have beef with each other and hate on each other, but I can't imagine there's a player earning money in professional hockey that doesn't think Connor McDavid is good for everybody.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to like recognize how hard he was trying in that game. Did you see it? Like, so
Oh,
in the doc, before he goes down and hits the post, do you see all the highlights of him almost scoring?
Yeah.
In the last game of the season?
When the season's
could have
written
5
off,
goals that game.
Oh, I know. It was unbelievable. I was like, that's right. I forgot. Like, before the injury, he was on fire.
Yeah.
He was
And
going
like
hard.
Bob Nicholson just saying, like, we already had a bad season. Like, it
Yeah.
couldn't get much worse.
Yeah.
And, well, guess fucking what? It just did.
That is the worst thing that could have happened.
We got to be
literally the
careful. I
worst
don't
thing.
want to speak into existence all the bad road we could have gone down.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
not
no,
even.
it's-
you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course I know
we
what
got
you
to
mean.
see the story.
It's exactly
Yeah.
how I experienced
but
the trailer.
now it just I shoot at the other end, just like loving Connor McDavid so much more because
Yeah.
that guy clearly is a special human to be willing to, and obviously has an amazing team around him because that obviously helps on the mental
His own
side.
team, not the Oilers. Let's be very clear. The
Well,
amazing
no,
team around
the
him.
current team around around him right now is pretty good too.
If they don't get him bottom 6 scoring and a better backup goalie, what the fuck does this guy need to do?
Which one do you consider the backup goalie, though?
It's a 50-50 shot. But my point is the same problems with the Oilers lineup have existed every year of his career.
Yeah.
And he busts his leg off at the hip.
Yeah.
Wills a new one out like a starfish, goes to opening night and scores. Like,
Yeah.
But seeing him,
You need to
the
be more
work he's willing to
optimistic.
put into, and he shoots at the
I
other
know
end
you
better,
are.
right? Like stronger
That's the
than
joke.
before, correct?
Yeah, I think for sure. Like, you see him, you heard Lisa say we're going to address all the things that might have been an issue before this, right? So it's kind of like rebuilding this foundation and addressing like the bad habits that you had. Like so often players go into the off season, you know, they lick their wounds and then they get back to training. So training is always broken up into 3 phases in the off season, right? First phase is rebalancing because it's a one-sided sport. You're playing either on your left or your right side. So you develop these imbalances in your body throughout the season. You've got little aches and pains. You've got strains. It's, you know, it's just getting your body back to healthy. Then you build the power in the middle frame. And that's about, you know, deadlifting and squatting 500 pounds and building that like movement force. And then leading up to preseason, what you do is you work on explosiveness and that speed. So those are the 3 phases that an athlete will typically go to. Connor just could only worry about his knee. Yeah. Like, and just make sure that it's not going to fall off on him when he goes into preseason, right?
That scene when he goes on the ice with his dad, like that's just the coolest.
Oh, that was
mid-documentary, just like
that was awesome.
And
it's like 2 months ahead of schedule.
We weren't supposed to go.
Oh, it's unreal. And then Gary Roberts is like, "Don't do anything." And he's like, "But I got a season to prepare for." You know, like what else am I going to do?
Shut up, Gary Roberts.
And it's amazing the footage too. You see him; he's just doing like these small circles. He misses a pass, and you can tell he doesn't get like he just wants to keep his 2 skates on the ground.
Yeah.
To fast forward probably like half an hour, and he's stick handling through all the pucks,
weaving,
and he's like,
turn.
he's doing like mohawk turns. I was like,
I just like
that's a competitive spirit, man.
Like I was trying to say earlier, like I should at the other end, just like having so much more like respect, even though I did before, but like appreciation, I guess, for the amount of how talented he is, how committed he is, and determined he is, and it just kind of like reassures me that like, fuck, man. We are going to make the playoffs.
We got a good one in them, man.
And we are going to threaten for the cup here soon enough.
And I don't know if
Uncle Ken's listening, the time is fucking now.
Amen.
I don't know if I said this before, but I feel so fucking grateful that when I was 8 years old, I watched the greatest hockey player to ever play hockey. And my son is 8 years old and is getting to do the exact same thing. Like, that's pretty fucking cool. And so I just hope that the story has the same sort of peaks.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I mean, and it's a lot harder though. I know it's a lot harder.
That our this iteration, he's going to put in the work to fucking try to get us there.
There's absolutely no questioning that after watching this.
You can never doubt this guy's commitment to win.
The other thing we haven't really talked about in this whole process, a lot of credit to Kate's and the organization, right? To like, you know, getting him on those planes and taking him around. Like they were like incredibly supportive. Like without them being that involved and that supportive, this really the rehab might not have gone that well.
Well, exactly. It's, you know, it's tough. It's a tough situation to be in because obviously you've got the Oilers doctor who sees the initial prognosis, the initial MRI, but he saw it at a time that like there was a ton of swelling. It just looked like mush. You couldn't really, the detail level was really low. So that's when he ended up going to Vail. And to have the team say, yes, we support you to go do, you know, even for your own peace of mind, get these other opinions was huge. Like that's why if you notice at the end, we have a very special thanks to Daryl Cates because he was really the one that facilitated and allowed it all to happen, right?
What do you mean? Go on.
Just in terms of, you know, flying Connor to these places and making sure that he has access to what he needs to have access to, right? It was kind of like free reign, like whatever you need to do to get this better, you can do it. It's not like
it was Daryl Cates that set up the third opinion, didn't he?
Yeah, because
so
that's a giant assist.
But yeah, so
because you call those special doctors.
You call those
because billionaires have different doctors.
Well, when they're in the office in California, they said they were in the waiting room for the doctor, and then right before Connor's turn, out from the doctor's office walks Blake Griffin, and it's like, all right, we're in good hands here. You know, like if NBA All-Stars are coming here, then we're good.
There's a different level, I think, of like when us normal people, I won't include you in that, Shane, because you're now better than all of us. But like when normal people get injured, they're like, yeah, you go stand in line with everybody else. But there's nobody else to stand in line when you're those guys.
And you wait 6 months for an MRI and then another 4 for the results. And they're getting an MRI done and the results are just shown on the computer 5 minutes later. One question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it reminds me of the Bill Gates documentary, and him and Warren Buffett are having lunch. And Warren Buffett's talking about, he's like putting all this salt in his burger. And he's like, oh, the other day my wife took a photo of me putting gravy on something and sent it to all my doctors by email. And they were just emailing me back, Warren, stop eating gravy on everything. I'm like, your motherfucking doctors are in constant email conversation? You have a medical team on a loop?
Well, that's because they're his investment.
There's no more Warren Buffett's.
So when it comes to like a guy like Cates, when he's got him flying around, and obviously he's his investment, like this is his number one asset on his hockey team. Does he send a guy with them, or does he like not micromanage that process? Is he like, you guys just you guys report back to me. Go see these people, but
Like, what do you mean, like one of his guys?
Is there like one of his guys, just to make
Like
sure
the
that
vice
process-
president of Rexall Distribution.
No, like maybe one of his. I don't know. He's got a fucking team of guys. He
Guy's
must
got
have somebody
everything.
that's.
No, I mean like Connor's agent group and manager, like they're all very plugged in, have really close relationships with Bob and Ken and Daryl to a lesser extent because he's more on the periphery, but he trusts that those guys are doing what needs to be done. He empowers them to say, okay, like who's going with Connor? Is it his agent? Is it his manager? TD, the medical trainer, went with him to Vail just as sort of a representative from the Oilers and to here, and which was probably a really good thing because that's when he got the terrible news that you have to have surgery, right?
If you're going to use this documentary as a triangulation of Mr. Cates, we know so little. Like he's aware of all the things going on and continually being updated, correct?
100%. It's your business, right?
So he's kind of like the cloud. He's hovering over everything. He's aware of everything.
Everything gets funneled to him.
The idea that he's
100%.
like a detached dictator is not true.
No, and I mean, I don't have a close personal relationship with him, so I can't speak
That you
to
can
it.
disclose, probably.
But I know from having watched on the periphery that yes, everything goes to him. Everything gets reported to him that needs to get reported, and he'll weigh in when he needs to. Right? Like it's the same with owning Amazon. Does Jeff Bezos deal with everything day to day? No, but does he get the big information, and does he have a overall picture of what's happening? 100%.
I think that's one of the difficulties of sports ownership is you need the resources to own a team in 2020, but you also need to have the presence of mind to not be busy doing the other thing, right? I think about the chap Jerry Moyes who owned the Coyotes in 2009. The global financial crisis hits. He owns the largest trucking company in the U.S. He just told the NHL, take my team, I'm fucked. I got real things to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be a billionaire, but also with nothing else to do except run your team. Well, Steinbrenner did it that way. Well, that's great. There's only...
Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I mean, these guys
Robert Kraft.
He didn't buy it in 2020. He bought the Cowboys in 1993
Bought
for
it
$40
for a
million.
song.
Yeah, they're business owners, right? And it's not the sports team aren't their main business. Right?
Never how they made their money.
But most of them are fans. Like a lot of sports teams lose money, right? And so if the value of your team is going up overall, maybe that's fine. But I think you got to balance those two things out.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons Mr. Cates is so smart. As much as he's taking shit for it, he found a way to take the Oilers' ownership and leverage that into a larger investment. That the on-ice performance of the team is sort of not immaterial, but there's going to be money made on the back end. A lot of teams don't have that secondary investment.
I think he's a unique case though, because he was legitimately a fan growing up. He's a homegrown Edmonton guy who used to go to Oilers games as a young kid and as an early 20s and 30s guy. And of course, he's a billionaire by 40, so maybe he stops going to games as much. But he genuinely wants the team to win, as far as I can tell, which is good.
My final question, sort of just on the documentary and all that, before we let you go, Shane, is now that it's out. You mentioned we did the one GIF thing on Twitter, and you loved scrolling through that, but just the reaction that's come out of it. How much have you loved seeing all that?
It's really cool. I mean, sports docs are almost, I don't want to say easy, but people are going to like them because they get to go down nostalgia lane and remember how great an athlete was or reflect on how good they currently are. You guys posting give your responses in GIF form just had me laughing for an hour because, you've got all these people commenting positive things, but then you've got the Wayne's World, we're not worthy, and people just really showing how much they love and care about Connor and the team in general. But what surprised me is no matter how positive a message you have, there's always going to be people who are quick to try and tear things down, right?
The 6%ers.
It's 6%. Where's 6 come from?
People who run big call centers, 6% of the people phoning in are crazy.
Oh yeah,
straight crazy. So they don't clock your call. They don't see how fast they can resolve it. They're just F12 while you blabber away.
I'm surprised it's that low, to be honest. But
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's low.
But you have people you mentioned earlier, talking about, this is a fault of the Canadian medical system that these rich people get to jump the line. It's all right, you've got a knee injury. How many people have jobs? How many millions of dollars are generated because of you? So Connor's a little bit of a different circumstance, right? I saw one comment that made me laugh. This person goes on Twitter, "This is the epitome of toxic sports culture. The idea that you should celebrate an athlete for forcing him to get himself back from injury so quick and and we should prioritize the athlete's health over this. It's like, how do you take this story and flip it to that negative viewpoint? Like, firstly, like, they did what was best for Connor. Like, they didn't go a surgical route, which was going to be worse for his health and career long term. So
they did everything they could to give him every bit of information too. To make the right decision.
When the Oilers,
it was his. No, go.
When the Oilers win the cup, which will occur, and Connor's hoisting it over his head, I'm going to start a clock on my phone for how long it takes for the first person to go, yeah, but can they do it next year? What with their bottom six and their salary cap situation? Like, the cup will still be over Connor's head, and there will be Oilers fans already being like, this isn't going to last. No way they repeat.
Well, you'll be in the crowd. It'll just be somebody next to you.
Buddy, I'll be on the ice naked. I'll have fallen over the
Remember
glass.
when they used to be able to do that?
I'm not coming to help you.
No. Remember back in the day, you'd win the cup, there's like guys right on the ice with
Hell
lit
yeah.
darts. Like,
security footage you might
Kevin
need to pull.
McClelland.
Yeah, they were giving high fives.
The best. Gretzky's shaking guys off. Like,
I think it happens more than my buddy snuck into the Penguins locker room when they beat the Predators, whatever year that was, 3 years ago.
Wow.
He's been a biggest Penguins fan since he was a kid. My buddy Adam back in Vancouver, shout out.
he's not listening.
He might. He flew out, and him and his dad went to the game, and they snuck into the Penguins locker room with the Stanley Cup there.
Amazing. That
Yeah.
just takes big balls just to like, because you obviously have to tell a series of lies, I think, and just like
I don't think
will
you have
your
to
way
tell
in.
anything. It's just
Or
one of those.
walk as
Just
if.
look. Like when you
Act
go to
like you're meant to be
Yeah,
there.
if you don't have to get your ID at the club, you're like you just straight up like you start to stress that they're going to ask you about it or something like that. Back when you were a kid,
I can't act like I'm
I just
supposed to be
walk-
there when I'm supposed to be there,
I
let
just
alone
walk-
if I'm not supposed
I
to be
just
there. I'd be
walk
like,
in, look
I
like
shouldn't be here. Goodbye.
look like I already had a stamp. Just show my hand. Fuck it.
I had a how do I frame this?
You were in the Stanley Cup dressing room in Pittsburgh.
I had a phone interview
Not
today.
yesterday.
Today for
Another podcast you want to do?
You're moving over to Copper and Blue?
for a foreign worker that we're helping out.
Oh, it's different.
With Oodle Noodle. Shout out Oodle Noodle sponsor. Anyways, so you have to have an interview with the government about it. And you can't fuck this up, because if you fuck it up, you can affect the livelihood of this person. So they called me. I didn't have any of my paperwork. I was freaking out, and I was like, and like pleasant person, but I'm just shitting my pants.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I didn't, for some reason I couldn't just immediately recall like, actually, can I call you in 3 minutes? Like I didn't. I'm like panicking, and then all of a sudden, finally, I got there. But like,
'Cause you've been waiting for that
that's
call.
like, I don't know if I have the skill set to be able to sneak into the pitcher.
Sure, a
Penguins
couple
locker room.
drinks
Booze
help, too.
helps, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So here's the most important question of the podcast.
Oh, go on.
Wow.
I've been listening. I've been waiting.
Fuck me. Sorry, all
yeah.
my questions were shit.
Yeah, no.
I said my own
This is
name earlier.
important. Do you think Demi Lovato will take 120.5 seconds above or under to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl?
Always the under, isn't it?
I
I
have
like
been
the
looking
over.
at a
Who?
couple. Demi Lovato.
Oh,
I have been
They want to
looking
talk
at-
Super Bowl prop bets.
Chalmers, I'll answer this.
I love this documentary, but if we could do another hour on just Super Bowl prop bets, if you'd like to
Well, here,
stay.
I got an answer for you. As somebody who watched the Oscars,
Sure.
she sang there.
She was awesome.
And every note was extended past the point of
That was a different song.
over under, though. I go over because she's in the fucking habit of extending all them notes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take
Land
the
of the
over.
free.
Are you?
That's going to go on for ages.
I would like to know the historical betting on how often the over hits.
But like, if you know Demi Lovato and you're like friends with her, can you be like, yeah, I just put a shit ton of money on
That's-
the under. So if you could just speed it up a little bit.
I wonder
So-
what this is at the Royals when they have a kid. If they're
Yeah.
like, throw a cheeky 50 on Lewis.
So
Yeah.
I swear there's circumstances like that, because all of a sudden you'll see the line change. Like in terms of what it's paying out.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you'll see it like on the Gatorade, because like the team equipment manager leaked it to their buddies, and their buddies are just loading up the bet in Vegas.
No,
and
that's
all
when
of a
they
sudden,
shut it down.
Yellow's
though.
paying
They don't
nothing.
do that.
Well-
they have 50, or they have like, well, let's say 5 or 6 really good analytic years about what people pay, and they know how to do the math onto what should be getting bet on it. So if every year like $7 million is getting bet on which color Gatorades can be, and this year there's like $7 million on one color, I believe they know that something's up, Jar.
I'd just be like, put a different color of Gatorade out, please. Thank you.
There was an issue with that, I want to say at the Oscars last year, where like director of something, it allegedly got leaked that some 20-1 big underdog was going to win it. And Bodog, all these sites just started getting max bet. Accounts coming up max bet. New account max bet. So they took it off, and then the guy didn't end up winning. and it was like a fake leak. It was fucked.
You know
Wow.
what pissed
Devious.
me off? Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Oh, of course.
What
Not
pissed
me, I watched
off
documentaries.
Was the summer leading into the season, which I think started in April, like Vegas bets all of a sudden who was going to
Become king.
Sit
king
on the Iron
all of a sudden Brand was just running away with it because people I don't know what got leaked, but all of a
Paul
sudden
Brandt, the country singer.
Paul Brand was going to take the Iron Throne. But
was
I'm like,
there.
so I'm like, oh fuck! Now I know Brand's going to win it because the Vegas money is telling me that it's probably right.
But then it wasn't.
No, they're right.
Oh,
I didn't know you could bet on TV shows.
You can.
But
Check out our friends
but
on
before we move on, did I tell you the Paul Brandt story from the World Juniors last time we were on the
no.
So Paul Brandt did the World Juniors 2012 "I Was There" song, correct? Remember that?
Yeah.
So
Featuring Kate
I was
Lang.
part of the organizing committee for the World Juniors, and we're sitting in our offices.
Hold on. What?
You did not?
You're part of the organizing committee for the World Juniors?
Yeah,
Of course you
my
are.
first Hockey Canada 2011. So
Boy, oh boy.
So we're sitting in our offices at it's like October or something before the World Juniors, and we get a call in, and we put Paul Brandt on the conference line, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm really excited to do this song. It's going to be great. I huge supporter of this. I was up till 3 a.m. last night, and I'm just trying to figure out, maybe you guys can help me. Like, what rhymes with Edmonton?" Anyway, we had no answer for him. I don't think he ended up using the name of the city in the song, but
What rhymes with Edmonton?
Yeg and Peg.
No, you got to do like a Migos song, and at the end of every line, just go "nya" at the end, and then you rhyme the "nyas" with each other, and then every word rhymes with everything.
That's smart.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
Paul Brandt. Little
Edmonton.
tip: call your pal Wanye next time.
Edmonton, yeah.
2020 anthem song, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Co-written by
Co-written
Wanye.
by. Throw me an EP. Finally, because we're done. Are we done?
Yeah.
We're done?
we can be done. Well, we've already gone well over time. so.
Okay, so we're
Well,
done.
this was worthy of going over time.
It was.
To finalize, we're very sad about Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck. I
Even
can't
though this is
shake
a hockey podcast and it's really none of our business,
It's a global event.
It is a global
It's
event.
a global tragedy.
Yeah.
it is. And when you have people pass away who are famous, there's a lot of people who have emotional investment in people like that. So a lot of people feel they know them. There's a playbook for when a musician dies. They made the 27 Club, or there's a playbook when an actor passes away or something like that. But a guy like Kobe passing away at 41, especially with his daughter and the other people involved, there's like no real precedent for something like that.
No.
And I think like we're living in an era where everybody's already feeling pretty bad. Like all the memes, 2019 ending, like can't wait for 2020. Like a Kobe Bryant passing away in January for a lot of folks. Very, very sad.
Can everyone who is trying to bring up the sexual assault stuff at the time of his death just fuck
Yeah,
off?
no shit. Hey.
Like really? Like the day of, you're gonna bring up? Yeah, he was a great athlete, but let's
But-
talk about the shitty things he did once.
You know,
I
there's
just think
Anyways.
it's a respect thing, no matter what. Like, not even just for Kobe, but for like the other lives on there. Like,
yeah,
Oh,
give
of
it
course.
a minute. Give it a minute.
But, like,
Wanja.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of shows that I watched that bring it up, and people that I really respect and really, really like what they say. And when they would bring up that thing, it was more to show that, like people are flawed and that he made huge changes after going through something like that. He devoted himself to being a family man, and love won over. And, like people like him should be, given the benefit of the doubt in some situations like that, and I think that was what I hope when people bring it up, because the fact is it's flawed and it's part of a story. But you're right, there should be a memoriam on it for like at least 24 to 48 hours. Let's just have a time where we can all think about
Let people
the
grieve.
7 people that weren't named. The fact that he looked in his daughter's eyes and wasn't able to protect her for one last time, and just the fact that a wife is now having to go through this grief. It's awful. It struck everybody. I don't care who you are, that struck you. And it's just like, we haven't had somebody who was one of the, maybe 1, 2, 3 best players in a sport go that early. You've seen guys like Muhammad Ali, but you see them at the end, right? You let them, that we've had the ability to see them, get to the Hall of Fame slowly and kind of become that post career thing. And with him, it was like, it was all just starting.
John Daly should have died years ago. We still got him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was
How did
crazy.
Keith
It was a
Richards
crazy
outlive
weekend.
Kobe? Like what the hell?
Did you read Jeter's thing that he wrote on?
Oh, I haven't yet. I've got that.
Yeah,
bookmarked.
it's short and
I
it's
have
sweet,
it,
but
yeah.
basically what he says is like, look, the few times I got to hang out, like, despite the fact this guy was an assassin with the ball, we didn't talk about basketball. We didn't talk about baseball. We talked about our daughters. We talked about our wives, those kind of things. And he's like, yeah, Kobe made some mistakes, but like, he realized what was important, and like everyone is flawed, everyone fucks up.
Well, and give him a
but he's-
minute's grace, and the
so-
poor guy passes.
Yeah, but like think about the 99.9% of the stuff he did that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
Like
just
we're
think-
talking, if it's isolated to one instance, fucking regardless of what the hell it was.
I think that now a lot of people are also going to get to see the dimensions to him. That there wasn't just a basketball assassin. That there was like a business mind there.
Yep.
That there was somebody who
That'll
just
all
wanted
come
to
out.
tell a story of I love basketball and ended up winning an Oscar for it.
He was an investor in Alibaba.
Yeah, he was a
Like,
businessman.
God damn, that is.
If only we knew a documentary filmmaker.
Yeah, like there's a crazy, like there's going to be a crazy story told about him.
Yeah,
Everyone's
I
gonna
wish
find
I
out
could
who
be
he
the
really
one
was.
to tell it, but I don't think it's going to be me.
Can we? We're going to transition to a happy thing, and then we'll end it here.
Love it.
If you had a dream project right now, you're probably already working on it, and you're under 7 NDAs. But if you could do anything you wanted for a documentary or a film, sequel to Avatar, what? I want to get it on the record now, so when you do it,
Titanic 2.
Avatar. Oh shit! It's the best movie of all time.
Avatar, Papyrus. Have you ever seen that skit?
Chalmers, I'm trying to get to the fucking gist of this thing here. If you could do anything you wanted,
So I've got
any project.
I've got two. I've got my sports one, and I've got my like meaningful, like try and help the world one. The meaningful try and help the world one I loved because I did a short film on foreign investment in the Alberta oil sands. And that was really rewarding because when people come up and thank you for a sports doc, they go, I loved it. That was great. You know, you guys did a good job. Like I'm really inspired. But with the doc that I did on the oil sands, people came up to me and said, thank you for sticking up for our industry because I feed my family with this job. And like without this job, I wouldn't have anything and my family would be poor on the streets. So that was a whole different thing. So what I would like to do is a global doc on energy sources, our current, our prospective forms, all their pitfalls and all their potential. So like talk about a reality of, okay, if we shut off oil and gas tomorrow, like how would your cost of living go up? Would you freeze to death? Would you overheat in the summer? Like, yes, we should probably get off fossil fuels at some point, but how realistic is that? And do we need some teenager from Scandinavia just spouting off, doomsday prophecies to us? Is that really productive? So that's something I'd like to tackle. But because it's a sports show and a hockey show.
It's not a sports show or a
No,
show.
I like
for that
those
matter.
two.
Yeah, it's,
What I would really like to do, of course, is Mr. 99 Wayne
Yes.
Gretzky. That would be the dream one.
Yeah. What about and Mess would have a huge part of that too, right? Because I
gonna do it probably.
I believe that the Captain Mark Messier, might have more of an untold story, don't you think?
Yeah, but does he want that story told? I don't know.
I do. I want it told.
Here's
tough
the
thing to do a
amazing
documentary.
thing about a 99 documentary. You're basically doing a documentary on the King. And this, I've heard, like, you know everything, I know nothing, but like I've heard little vignettes about Gretzky where like a guy told me a story one time. He's like, I was in a meeting down in Calgary and we were at a restaurant with Wayne Gretzky and he kept looking over my shoulder while we were talking. And I thought, man, this guy's so rude. He won't even make eye contact with me. Gets up, goes outside, gives a homeless guy who's got his back to the window a wad of cash, comes back in and sits down and doesn't say a word. When you do your 99 documentary, can you knit together story? I swear, you know, like Bill Murray sightings now, how he pops up at a frat party and does a beer bong and bounces.
Yeah.
I swear Gretzky has Gretzky-esque moments of humanitarianism throughout his entire life that everybody who knows him probably has one. I'm almost more interested in that type of shit than knowing that he went to the Rangers at the end and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's a really astute observation. I think you're right. Like the few times I've been lucky enough to be around him, like
Say what?
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. He just keeps
Just
saying
hold
that
on,
stuff.
Chopper, just hold on.
He
What?
just keeps dropping it in there.
you know this. We talked about this last.
I know, but I was hamming it up for the mic.
Yeah.
I see that. Like he's very observant. Like he'll notice things. He'll notice people around him. I don't know all those stories that you're talking about, but I'm sure, like you are, that they're there.
You can
And that
collect
would be really interesting. And I thank you for that idea that I might steal at some point if I ever do that film.
Chuck me an EP. It's the Hollywood way.
Just chuck you an EP. It's going on the IMDb page.
Perfect.
Really appreciate your time today, Shane. The doc
Yeah,
was
man,
great.
that
I
was
know
awesome.
Oilers fans loved it, so we
Unreal.
appreciate you coming into our dungeon.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I just want to say, like, obviously we had a phenomenal team working on this. Don Metzer, director, producer, Pollyanna Hardwick Brown, co-producer and editor, everyone that goes into this. It takes an army, and like, I'm not the talented one. Like, I just kind of help other people do their jobs because they're artistic and talented. Like literally I'm a glorified bag handler and coffee getter on set. So I just get the talented people to where they need to be. And that's, of course, Connor for participating and because he's listening to this, right?
Obviously.
And, you know,
Leonard the Labradoodle.
He's the only person who streams this show live.
Yeah, one guy.
Jeff Jackson, Adam Phillips, all those guys, tremendous job. And I was just lucky to be part of that team.
And I'm thankful for that team for sharing that story with us and getting
too.
us behind the scenes of that. And yeah, I want to thank the medical team for making Connor where he's at right now.
I like that you're thanking right now.
I thought we were going to end on a happy note.
Yeah.
But good
Wanna
work,
thank the
everyone.
pool?
Like high fives, everyone. Everyone did a great job.
Yeah.
And now we're fucking playoffs 2020.
And this is why you don't treat ligament damages with traditional Chinese herbal medicine.
All right, that seems like a good spot to end it. Shane, thanks for your time. Everyone else, thanks for listening along at home or in your car. Nation Real Life episode 156 is over.
Great job on making it through the entire hour of the Real Life podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from.